Hey, all right, and welcome back to another wonderful day here at MSA. So glad to see you. Glad you could make it, because right now we're trying to make sense out of all this stuff with Donald Trump. You know, it's amazing to us when you see what happened to Trump recently in the civil case ruling, and he comes walking out of the courtroom and holds his composure to talk to those cameras. That is amazing. Getting hit with a $354 million fine, that's insanity. I mean, think about it. How many of us collectively would it take over the lifetime of our incomes to make $354 million? It's insanity. That amount of money, where's the justification for this? You know, this all stems back. It starts from a law called the Martin Act. It's about 100 years old. It has to do with misrepresentation and frauds in the public when it comes to commodities and things of that nature. And basically what you have with Donald Trump is you have a victimless crime. No one ever came forward and said, hey, he did this. None of the banks said, no, he did this to us and we're, out all this money and blah, 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 blah. None of that happened. Basically you have people that got together and tried to figure out how they could make a name for themselves. Letitia James being the biggest one out of all of them. And then you got the judge who's got his little sidekick sitting next to him the whole time during these proceedings. And that little sidekick that sits next to him, I can't remember her name because it's a mental block. I don't want to remember her name. But his little sidekick, if you do a little research on her, she's all big part of the Biden campaign. She's also a huge part of the Obama campaign. So you're going to tell me she just happened to be there to just, help that judge out? This wasn't politically motivated in any way, shape, or form? No. Ridiculous. Now, going to the Attorney General, Letitia James, coming after Donald Trump. And, of course, she must feel mighty proud of herself right now. She just won this big case that is most likely going to get destroyed in appellate court. We'll wait and see how that plays out. But you got to look at all of this. The banks came forward and testified saying they were happy and they look forward to doing more loans with Donald Trump and Trump Industries. You come and look at the people that are looking at the appraisals of Mar-a-Lago and saying $18 million is ridiculous for that property. And Letitia James came out on camera a while ago and saying that I believe it was 40 Park Avenue it's one of his buildings that he has. It was claimed to have a value of $200 million and then another value of $220 million 2 years later. And in between that, Trump had put on one of his returns that property is worth, or whatever, his assets valuations, that the property is worth over $500 million. Well, are we talking about taxable amounts or are we talking about sale amounts? Because when you get into real estate, the taxable amount of a house, building, or whatever is always lower than it is what you're going to buy it for. Especially anything that's got the name Trump on it, it's going to sell for a lot more. And we all know that. I mean, Trump's been an icon for 50 years. My gosh. Now, going into all of this, I want to play this quick take because I got this clip I want to roll. Like I said, Trump held his composure really well. And just going to play about a minute of it real quick. You'll see why. My favorite part is what he says in the very beginning of this. So we're going to roll this clip. We'll see you in just a second. Just hang in there.
Well, thank you very much. It's a very sad day for, in my opinion, the country. A New York State judge just ruled that he's crooked as you can get. And a lot of people expected something like this, but not for the amount. But this is a very dishonest man. This is a man that's been overturned already on this case 4 times. But a crooked New York State judge just ruled that I have to pay a fine of $355 million for having built a perfect company. Great cash, great buildings, great everything. It affects New York. It's mostly talking about New York, where we have a totally corrupt attorney general. She campaigned on the fact that I will get Trump, I will get Trump. Everybody's seen it. Letitia James. They've all seen it. Well, we'll be appealing, but more important than that, this is Russia, this is China, this is the same game. All comes out of the DOJ, it all comes out of Biden. It's a witch hunt against his political opponent. the likes of which our country has never seen before. You see it in third world countries, banana republics, but you don't see it here.
Okay, you got to see the clip. First thing out of his mouth, it's a sad day for America. Now, you don't have to like Trump. You don't have to even give a rip about any of this. But what you have to pay attention to is, yes, it's a sad day for America. This Martin Act law can be interpreted in many different ways. And this can come after all kinds of businesses. Don't think it's just going to be one for Trump. You know, and look what's already happening because of James's actions. You have the largest developer in New York has now moved and took his business operations with him, and he's now in Miami, down in Florida. Why? He's not going to wait for this kind of thing to come after him. He doesn't want any part of what New York City has to dish out these days. And how many other people is he going after? You know, currently, we did another segment. We mentioned this before, but Letitia James is currently suing the Pepsi-Cola company. And why? Because Pepsi bottles litter all over the banks of the rivers and different places. And like I said then, I've never seen a Pepsi driver driving around throwing empty bottles all over the place, and I don't think anybody else has. So where does she come up with this? It's not Pepsi-Cola's fault that people are throwing bottles on the ground. But again, she's going after Pepsi. Who knows where that's going to even end up? So where does all this go for the American public? Where does it go for business? Because, you know, in business, when they talk about the American taxpayer going and purchasing a home, okay, you come in with your W-2s or you come in with your tax returns and you show your bank accounts and things, and they go after that and they go, okay, you know, this is what you can afford on this level. When you're a multi-billion-dollar or multi-million-dollar corporation, there are assets all over the place. That becomes estimated values. That's standard business. The banks have to look and evaluate the risk versus the reward. Are you worth loaning X amount of dollars to for X amount of property? And if we did do that as a bank and we had to foreclose on it, would we get our money back, or how much would we lose if you can't keep your stuff together? But if you can keep your stuff together, as the bank would make a lot of money. Yes or no, right? Okay. So that being the case, Donald Trump coming in and estimating what things are worth, estimating the values on his other properties, his own self-worth, all these other things, that's standard when you get to that level. And he's at this level. I mean, he's not even at that level that, I mean, think about it. We're talking about Donald Trump. You know, what are you going to have Elon Musk pull out all of his tax returns and everything? And plus, if Trump is if he's doing it as a business, that means he's doing what the business is valued at, not him personally. Two different entities. The business is buying something, not Donald Trump. Now, there's been a little bit of scare out there, and it's been going on for a little bit. And the guys at Fox say it best, and I'm going to leave you with that. It's just about a 1-minute clip, maybe a minute 30. And they're going to talk about how some of the CEOs are looking at some of this, and basically, and what this is going to do to the markets out there, especially in New York. So do us a favor. Hit the follow button. Like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you check us out on Rumble. We love each and every one of you. We want to keep coming back and showing more and more of these things. And we need your help because we're a small channel and we're trying to grow. So do us a favor. Share everything. That way the word gets out there and we can grow this channel. And we appreciate it. So love and care about every single one of you and look forward to seeing you again. So you take care of yourself. Have a great day or night or whatever it is, wherever you're at. We'll see you later. Bye.
From the accountant side of your fine mind, help me with this, and all the CEOs with whom I've been chatting, Dan, who fear, there but by the grace of God go they. That some of them no fans of Donald Trump, but no fans of this legal, what one called a cabal against him that had no harm parties. They were unaware that this series of rules and laws, whatever you want to call them, has been on the books apparently for many, many decades and never been implemented until now. What do you make of that? Is that a legitimate concern on their part?
Yes, it's definitely legitimate. And you're right, Neil. Let's remove Donald Trump from the equation because he's so polarizing. Regardless of the facts, people will say he's right or wrong depending on how you feel about him. But if you just look at what the facts are related to this case, it's extremely disturbing. Neil, when you have a situation where people are applying for loans and they have to provide personal financial statements to the banks. Those financial statements are based upon estimated value. So now it's really up to the banks to do their due diligence to see whether they agree with those appraised values or estimated values or not. It's not like they're audited, so the bank is going to do their own work on that. Now, in this case, based upon the fact that the banks were willing to lend the money, they took into consideration whatever Trump said and did their own work on it. For this case to go down this path has to have CEOs extremely concerned about the process of getting loans.